Don't forget to like the video. Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to stay updated with Eurota's stories. It was a Tuesday morning of day that starts with grey skies and a quiet drizzle. The kind of weather that makes you want to stay in bed with a cup of tea and a good book. I was 52, living alone in a cozy little house on Miloud Lane, a street where everyone knew each other, but no one really knew her, if that makes sense. Sue waved, exchanged pen test, borrowed a cup of sugar, but thought was about it. Life was predictably comfort, and if I'm being honest, a little lonely that morning. I was sitting at Micken table, staring out the window at rain-soaked garden, my hydrangeas were blooming there, blue ped heavy with water, and the oak tree in the backyards waved gently in the breeze. I was lost in thought, sipping my Maltia, when I heard a knock at Theodore's. Now I wasn't expecting anyone. David was busy with his own life in city, and my friends were all tied up with their families or work. I hesitate for a moment, then set my cup down and walked to the door. When I opened it, I was surprised to see my neighbor, Mr. Thompson, standing there. It was a tall man in his late 60s with silver hair and kind eyes. He lifted 2 doors down and would exchange a few words here and here over the years, but nothing more often that he was holding a small wrapped package in his hands, and he looked a little nervous, which was soon usual for him. "Morning, Linda," he said. His voice warmed the sightant. "I hope I'm not disturbing you, not at all." I replied, smiling, "What can I do for you, Mr. Tom's son?" "Please call me Henry," he said, returning the smile. I noticed you've been working in your garden a lot. Lately, you fought quite the green thumb called well. It keeps me busy. The first find it relaxing." He nodded, then held out that pic. "I saw this at the farmer market over the weekend, and I thought of you. It's nothing much, just a little something to brighten your day." I was akin back. No one had given me a gift like this in years. I took the package, feeling the weight of it in my hands. "Thank you, Henry. That's very kind of you." He shuffled his feet, looking almost shy. "Well, I'll let you get back to your morning. Have a good day, Linda." "You too," I said, watching Ashatran, and walked back down the path. To sidewalk closed the door and unwrapped the cage. Inside was a beautiful ceramic lantern, painted with delicate flowers and vines. It was the kind of thing I would have picked out for myself. I ran my fingers over the smooth surface, feeling a strange mix of emotions, gratitude, curiosity, and something else I couldn't quite put my finger on. Later that afternoon, I decided to plant a small fern in the planter and place it in my porch as I worked. I found myself glancing down the street toward Henry's house. I realized I didn't know much about him, other than that he was a widower and had lived on Maplewood Lanifer as long as I had. The next day, I baked a batch of oatmeal cookies, my grandmother's recipe, and walked down to Henry's house when he answered the door. Looked surprised, but pleased. "I wanted to thank you for that planter," I said, holding out the plate of cookies. It was such a thoughtful gift. Has his eye sprinkling at the corner soup. "Didn't have to do that, but I appreciate it. Would you like to come in for a cup of coffee?" I hesitated for a moment, then nodded. I'd like that his house was warm and inviting with bookshelves lining through walls and a fireplace in the living room. We sat at his kitchen table, sipping coffee and talking about everything from Gehring to travel tour for war books. I was surprised by how Hawaii it was to talk to him, how comfortable I felt in his presence. As I walked home that evening, I realized how much I had missed this kind connection. It wasn't just the gift cookies. It was the way Henry had taken the time to notice me to see me as more than just the woman who lived 2 doors down that night as I lay in bed. He thought about the unexpected kindness of me neighbor and how it had touched me in a way I hadn't expected. It was a small gesture, but it had opened a door to something new, something I hadn't realized. I was missing the days that followed. Henry's unexpected gift felt different somehow. like the world had shifted, just a little revealing colors I hadn't noticed before. The rain cleared, and the sun came out, casting a golden glow over my woodlane. My garden seemed to respond to the change theft blooming. Brighter the leaves greener, or maybe it was just me seeing everything through a new lens. I found myself thinking about Henry more often. Our conversation over coffee had been so natural. It wasn't just the topics we discussed. It was the way Wholesome really listened, as if every word I said mattered. I hadn't realized how much I'd missed that kind of connection until it was right there in front of me. A few days later, I was out in the garden pruning the roses when I heard footsteps the sidewalk. I looked up and saw Henry walking toward me, his hands in his pockets and a smile on his face. "Good morning, Linda," he said, stopping at the edge of those roses are stunning. "You've got quiet." I wiped my hands on my apron. "Anne's boff. Thank you, Henry, the pride and joy. Would you like to come in for a closer look?" He nodded, and I limped through the gate, pointing out the different varieties, the deep reds, the soft pinks, the creamy whites. He listened intimately, asking questions and admiring blooms. "You know," he said, after a while, "I've always wanted to have a like this, but I've never had that patience for it." I admired your dedication. "It's not as hard as it looks," Sai replied. "It just takes time and a little love hedge." "Well, maybe you could teach me a thing." I hesitated for a moment, then said, "Be happy to. Why don't you come by tomorrow morning and we can get started?" His eyes lit up. "I'd like that. Thank you, Linda." The next morning, Henry arrived right in time, wearing a pair of old jeans and a flannel shirt. I handed him a pair of gardening gloves and showed him how to prepare the soil for planting. We worked side by side, talking and laughing as we dug and planted and watered. It was, and I found myself enjoying his company more than I had expected. As the days turned into weeks, gardening sessions became a regular thing. We'd meet in the morning in times at my house, sometimes at Highs and work on whatever needed to be done. Wasn't just about the plants though. It was about the conversations, these shared moments, the growing connection between us. One afternoon we'd finished planting a row of tulips in his backyard. Henry suggested we take a break and sit on the porch. He brought out a pitcher of iced tea, and we sat in thist, sipping our drinks and watching birds flip around there. "You know," he said after a while, "I've lived on this street for over 20 years, and I've never really gotten to know me. I guess I've always been a bit of a loner." I nodded, understanding exactly what he meant. "I know what you mean. It's easy to get caught up in your own little world and forget there are people right next door." He looked at me. His expression thought, I'm glad you moved in, Linda. You've made this place feel like a Megan." His words touched me deeply, and I felt a lump form in my throat. "Thank you, Henry. That means a lot." Sat in silence for a while. The kind, comfortable silence that doesn't need be filled with words. The sun was warm in my face, the breeze gentle, and for the first time in a long time, it felt truly at peace. As the weeks went by, Henry and I grew closer. We started sharing more than just gardening tips. We shared stories about our lives, our families, our dreams. He learned that he'd been a teacher bear. He retired there, loved jazz music, and had a soft spot for old movies. Told me about his late wife, Margaret, how much he missed her. She was the love of my life. He said one evening, away sat on my porch, watching the sunset. "I never thought I'd find someone you could make me feel that way again." I looked at him, my heart aching for the pain in his voice. "I understand it's hard to lose someone you love." Her nodded, his eyes distant. "But I think she'd be happy to see me like this, spending time with Simone, who makes me smile." His words stayed with me long after he'd gone home that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about Henry and the unexpected dry-ins we built. It wasn't something I had planned or expected, but it had become an important part of my life. And as I drifted off to sleep, I couldn't help but wonder where this journey would take us next. Life has a way of testing us, doesn't it? Just when you think you found your footing, something comes along to shake things up for Henry and Method. Something was a storm, a big one. It was late September, and the weather had been unusually warm for that time. Off here, the leaves on the trees were just starting to turn, painting Benny Boarhood in shades of gold and red Henry, and I had been spending more and more time together, not just gardening, but also sharing meals, watching movies, even taking a few day trips, Tonabee Towns. It felt like we were building something special. But then the storm rolled in. It started as a distant rumble of thunder, a dark line of clouds on the horizon bivening. The wind had picked up, and their rain was coming down in sheets. I stood at my living room window, watching the trees sway, and the rain pound against the glass. The power flickered once, twice, then went out completely, plunging the house. Into darkness I fumbled for a flashlight and lit a few candles, trying to make the best of it. But as the storm raged on, I couldn't shake the feeling. A few nears thoughts settled in my chest. Then I heard it, a loud crash, followed by the sound of splintering wood. My heart leapt into my throat. I grabbed my raincoat and flashlight and outside the wind, whipping my higher and the rain, soaking through my closed sensicons. I followed the sound to Henry's house, where I saw the source of the noise. A massive oak tree in his backyard guard had been struck by lightning and had fallen crashing through part of his roof. Mestomac dropped, I shouted, rushing to his front door. I pounded on it, my heart racing. Henry, are you okay? The door opened, and there he was, looking shaken. Guten Hamid, Linde said, his voice tight with worry. I'm fine, but the tree it came through thorough. I stepped inside, shining my flashlight. Around the damage was worse than I thought. The tree had smashed through the corner of the living room, sending debris everywhere. The rain was pouring in through the hole in the roof, soaking the carpet. Tanfornua, we need to get you out of here, I said, grabbing his arm. It's not safe. He hesitated, looking around at Thesis. But my house, your house can be fixed. Interrupted. But you can't stay here. Come on, you're coming to my place. He didn't argue. I helped him go. There are a few essentials, some clothes, medications, a photo of Margaret, and we are hurried back to my house through that driving rain. We were inside. I handed him a towel and a dry set of clothes. Go get changed, I said. I'll make so much by the time he came back downstairs. I had a pot of chamomile tea steeping on the stove and a fire crackling in the fireplace. He sat down on the couch, looking exhausted and overwhelmed. Thank you, Linda, he said quietly. I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't come. I handed him a mug of tea and sat down beside him. You don't have to thank him. That's what friends. We sat in silence for a while, listening to the storm outside and the of the fire. The power was still out, but the candles cast a warm flickering light that made the room feel cozy. Despite the chaos outside, Henry said. After a while, this reminds me of a night I spent with Margaret during hurricane. We were young, just married, and we didn't have much, but we had each other, and that was Chino. I smiled, feeling a lump form in my throat. She sounds like an amazing woman. She was, he said, his voice soft. And you remind me of her in so many ways. His words caught me off guard, and I felt my cheeks flush. Henry defers. He reached over and took me hand his grip, warm and steady. Linda, I know this might not be the right time, but I need to say if these past few months with you haven't meant more to Methan, I can put into words. You've brought light back into my life, and I don't want to let that go. I looked into his eyes, seeing the sincerity and vulnerability. There my heart was pounding. But for the first time in a long time, It wasn't from fear or uncertainty. It was from hope. Henry, I said softly, you've brought light into my life too. I didn't realize how much it needed someone like you until you came along. He smiled, a slow, warm smile that made my heart swell. Then maybe we can figure this out together. I nodded, feeling a sense of peace settle over me. Together. The storm raged on outside, but inside it felt like off-sun had come out. We sat there, holding hands and talking late into the night until the rain finally stopped, and the first light of dawn began to creep through the windows. The morning after the storm dawned clear and bright, thickened, of day that makes you believe in fresh starts. The air smelled of damp earth and fallen leaves, and the sunlight streaming through my windows felt like a poised. Henry and I sat at the kitchen table, sipping coffee and eating toast with jam. The events of the previous night still fresh in our minds. I should call the insurance company, Henry said, breaking the comfortable silence, and maybe a contractor to take a look at the damage. I nodded, reaching across the table task. With his hand, we'll figure it out, one step at a time. He smiled, his eyes warm with gratitude. I don't know what he doubted out you, Linda. You don't have to find out, I replied, smiling back. Over the next few days, we worked together to get Henry's house back in order. The insurance adjuster came and assessed the damage, and a contractor started repairs in the roof. It was a lot of work, but it felt good to be doing something tangible, something that brought us even close. One evening after a long day off, cleaning up DAs and sorting through damaged belongings, Henry and I sat on my perch, watching the sunset. Over Maplewood Lane, the sky was a riot. Off colors, pinks, oranges, and purples blending together in a way that took my breath away. You know what? Henry said, breaking the silence. I've been thinking a lot about what you said the other night about figuring this out together. It turned to look at him, my heart skipping gibbo, and he took a deep breath. Heist expression, serious but the full. I don't want to waste any more time. Linda, life's too short, and I've already spent too much of it alone. You want to be with you. If you'll have meteors welled up in my eyes, and I blink at them away, not wanting to miss a single mint off. Henry, I feel the same way. I've been alone for so long, and I didn't realize how much I needed someone like you until you came into my life. He reached over and took my hand, his grip warm and steady. Then let's do this. Let's build a life together, whatever that looks like in audited. Feeling the sense of peace and happiness I hadn't felt in years together. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of emotion and decisions. Henry's house was repaired. Buff spent more and more time at Manunal. It felt like we were already living together. We talked about their future, about merging our lives, about traveling, about growing old together. It was exciting and terrifying and wonderful all at tones. One crisp October morning, we decided to take a walk through. Then, enjoying the fall colors and the cool, fresh arrows, we strolled hand in hand. I felt a deep sense of contentment, like I had finally found my place in the world. "Ya no," Henry said as we passed a particularly beautiful maple tree, its leaves of fiery red. "I think Margaret would have liked you." I looked at him surprised. He nodded, his eyes soft with Murray. "She always said I needed someone you could keep me on my toes. Someone with a kind heart and a strong spirit." Thoughts. Tears filled my eyes again, but this time I didn't try to blink them away. "Thank you, Henry. That means more tome than you know." Hess stopped walking and turned to face me, taking both of my hands in his. "Linda, I know we're not young anymore, but I think we've got a lot of good years ahead of us, and I want to spend every one of them with you." Smiled through my tears, feeling a joy so profound it almost hurt. "I want that, Henry, more than anything." He leaned in and kissed me, a gentle, tender kiss that felt like a poise. And in that moment, surrounded by the beauty of the season and the warmth of his love, I knew that this was just beginning of something beautiful. As we continued our walk, the sun shining down on us and the leaves crunching beneath our feet, I felt a deep sense of gratitude for Henry Fatelif. We were building together and forth unexpected kindness that had brought us to this moment. Life had thrown us a fuka, but we had weathered the storm and come out stronger on the other side. And as I looked ahead to the future, I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, we would face them together. Because sometimes the most beautiful things in life come when you least expect.